A tumultuous weekend for NASCAR on this Memorial Day weekend ends with a very emotional victory for Daniel Suarez. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Talkin NASCAR. I am your host, Andrew. Hope you all are enjoying a very nice, night long 3-day weekend in celebration of Memorial Day. I know for sure I did. I enjoyed this entire weekend of racing. I watched the Indy 500 yesterday. I watched the Coca-Cola 600 yesterday. I got to see parts of the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race. I got to see the truck race on Sunday morning. And then here I am on Monday preparing for the 4 days of the week yet to come. And that includes talking about the Coca-Cola 600 that concluded late last night. I did not feel like just staying up extremely late to recap that race. I wanted to go to bed, and just enjoy a good night's sleep. Sleep in a little bit this morning and maybe talk about it a little bit later. So, here that's what we're doing today with this episode. So, we'll go through and recap and review the entire Coca-Cola 600. Well, maybe not the entire, but we'll highlight the big portions of this race. Let's start by talking about this race and what it means overall as a whole, because this weekend, like I already mentioned in the intro, was a very tumultuous one for the entire sport. You had obviously the loss of Kyle Busch that really just brought a humongous black cloud over the sport this weekend, and it's fitting words, honestly, because this weekend as well, as we rolled in for the Truck Series race on Friday night, we got a ton of rain, and that was going to be scheduled for not only Friday night, but that would continue throughout the entire weekend and maybe even put the Coca-Cola 600 in jeopardy on Sunday and may have to move it to Monday. I mean, the Truck Series race got delayed and postponed twice. I mean, it was supposed to be on Saturday morning at like 7 a.m., I'm pretty sure, Central Time. Ended up getting moved to Sunday morning before the Cup Series race, before the 600. And the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race started on time, but had to be called early because they had a rain delay. It was getting late at night, and there was a bunch of fog over the track. So that was an incredible spectacle, honestly, to see from that race. So for the Coca-Cola 600 to not only start on time, and in this race, nearly finish all 400 laps and nearly complete all 600 miles was incredible, and we had great weather for it. It was a little bit cloudy, sure, but it cleared up as the night went on, and unfortunately, though, we did get caught with some stray showers as we got into the fourth and final stage, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But the fact that, just with how tumultuous this weekend has been, with all the weather, with all the everything transpiring before it, the fact that we were able to run almost 400 laps and almost 600 miles, I think is a humongous victory for the sport, given everything that has happened this weekend. I do real quick want to applaud NASCAR for everything that they've done this weekend in remembrance of Kyle Busch, everything that they've done previously, like prior to the Cup Series race, with having his picture on the billboard on the back straightaway throughout the entire weekend was a very nice and touching move. Having the pre-race ceremonies to the 600 with the speech from Steve O'Donnell, everyone on pit road bringing out Kyle's family, his brother Kurt and his parents were also there in attendance, having taps being played, which I haven't seen at a professional sporting event before the event actually begins. I've never seen that. I thought that was a very touching moment. Like that was very moving. And then also having Amazing Grace being played, some very historic songs in the history of this country, and I think it really was handled spectacularly. So I want to applaud NASCAR in that regard. So let's start by talking about the beginning of the race, and we'll go all the way through it. At the beginning of this race, in the first stage of the four stages, because remember, in the Coca-Cola 600, they divided up into four 100-lap stages instead of three stages, so it's an extra 100 laps. It's the longest race of the year. Anyways, in the first stage, it did not look very racy. The track did not look very racy. It was still under the sunlight, a little bit of sun, little bit of daylight on the track still, so the temperature hadn't quite come in yet. It was very, very hot still, not entirely gripped up yet, and which would change as we got into the later portions of this race when the sun went down and the lights came on. The track did change, but early on in this race, the track was a little bit more slick. It wasn't very racy, at least to what I saw, and it wasn't an amazing product, but I was thinking in the back of my mind that after this first stage and maybe even after stage 2 at the latest, the track would change, the sun would go down, the temperature would go down as well, and the grip level would go up, and the racing product would get better. But sticking with stage 1, the lack of grip in stage 1 as compared to stage 2 and 3 and 4 would be seen because we would get 3 cautions, which would be the most, cautions in a stage we would have last night. Josh Berry would spin out, early in the stage, just had a lack of grip up by the outside wall, got into the wall, spun out, didn't really, didn't get too much damage from it as well, so he was able to continue. Lap 53, though, we had a big two-car crash. Austin Cindric, I believe, uh, coming into turn 1, got a little bit of help from Christopher Bell, got sent up the racetrack into the outside wall, and as he was coming back down the racetrack onto the apron, he ended up getting slammed by Connor Zilic, destroyed the front end of Austin Cindric's car. Connor Zilic had severe right rear quarter panel damage. I believe broke the entire suspension on that 88 car, and Zilic was done for the night. And Austin Cindric is having a pretty nice race so far. Was running up towards the front of the field in the top 15. Looks like a pretty solid night for Penske overall. And then Connor Zilic was trying to work his way forward still. He had a great weekend last week at Dover. I was really excited to see what he could do at Charlotte, one of his first NASCAR Cup Series starts last year. So I was excited to see what Zilic would do. Unfortunately, his night came to an end. And then lap 90, Chase Elliott would actually spin out off of turn 2 and hit the inside wall. His night would be over as well. Something we don't see from Chase Elliott very much. He's usually able to keep the car underneath him and make all 400 laps and all 600 miles, but unfortunately that would be the end of the night for Chase Elliott. But after stage 1 ended, and we just didn't get any cautions in stage 2. We ran an entire green flag cycle for stage 2, and then stage 3, however, we get another caution. Catherine Legg attempting the double late last night, unfortunately got wrecked out at Indianapolis early on in that event. Did not complete all 500 miles. Did complete all 600 miles though in Charlotte last night, but unfortunately could not entirely complete the double. But it was a very good attempt from Catherine Legg. Got to applaud her. We'll shout her out again later on in the show. But Catherine Legg would end up having a loose wheel come off early on in stage 2 or stage 3, excuse me. That would bring out a caution, but that would be the only caution in stage 3. Stage 3 would come and go. We get to stage 4, and then we get a big crash for Ross Chastain, who ended up hitting the inside wall very, very hard after it looked like he got a little bit of help from Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Off of turn 2 down the back straightaway. Stenhouse was having a very good night last night. Got a big run off the corner. Chastain looked like he tried to pull up in front of Stenhouse to maybe block his run. He thought Stenhouse would maybe check up a little bit. Stenhouse tried to go to the inside. Chastain tried to cover him and ended up getting clipped in the back bumper by Stenhouse and into the inside wall. It was a very hard impact, but glad to see Chastain was okay in this one. And then we'd see kind of the same thing later on that stage. It was with Chase Briscoe and Chris Buescher. It was a similar kind of incident. Briscoe got a run on both Ryan Preece and Chris Buescher. Briscoe looked like he tried to go 3 wide, maybe underneath Buescher. Buescher tried to block, ended up getting turned by Chase Briscoe, ended up catching Ryan Preece, and Briscoe ended up getting caught back up, involved in that crash. Josh Berry got some damage as well. But besides that, that was like the biggest incident that we would see all night. The most cars involved, but despite all that, it was a fairly tame night, at least compared to some of the other races that we'd seen this weekend. The Xfinity race, or excuse me, O'Reilly Series race was a little chaotic, had a lot of incidents. The Truck Series race was full of spins and incidents in that one. So for the Cup Series race, even though it did have 12 cautions, the majority came in stage 4 and weren't necessarily for on-track incidents necessarily. But overall, that was probably the biggest crash of the night in stage 3, having that multi-car incident with Briscoe, Preece, and Buescher and Berry. But besides that, not too bad of a night for cautions, which, I was expecting a little bit worse, but overall, still pretty good. Now we get into stage four. I would say that, but all those incidents that I just mentioned, Chastain and Buescher and Briscoe, all those were in stage four. But we get later on into stage four, we'd finally get our first caution for weather. We would get a lightning caution on lap 353 for lightning in the area. Now, this is where things get a little bit dicey here. Uh, it was supposed to be, per the rule book, if there is a lightning caution, lightning in the area within a certain mile radius of the track, NASCAR goes under a 30-minute delay. All racing stops. They come down pit road and wait for the lightning to pass and the 30-minute delay to expire. What was different about this one tonight, and very surprising, is that after only about a couple laps of pacing, maybe about 5 minutes, the lightning delay was cleared by an on-site meteorologist, which I don't think I can remember happening in NASCAR, at least while I've been watching. And if you were watching the Prime Video broadcast like I was, Dale Jr., Steve Letarte, Adam Alexander, they were all very, very confused. They had never seen that before. So a very interesting thing occurred with that. The on-site meteorologist, which I don't think we've ever had before, but I guess with all the rain in the area that weekend, I guess one was at the track and they cleared the delay. It was very interesting. So it was very, very sudden, and almost after the delay was cleared, all the cars came down pit road, and most of them took four tires except for one, and that was the number 7 car of Daniel Suarez. And Suarez, throughout this entire night, had not been competitive at all. He was lingering in the mid-teens, staying on the lead lap, doing a good job of staying out of trouble, but he wasn't anywhere close to being in contention like guys like Bell, Hamlin, Reddick, Kyle Larson. Suarez was hanging out in the back of the lead lap towards the end of it, doing his job, keeping the car clean, doing a good job overall. But him and his crew chief, Ryan Sparks, took a gamble to only take 2 tires to get some track position and maybe see if they can hold on for a little while with possible rain and weather looming in the not so distant future. Even though the rain had been moving towards the west of the track, weather can be unpredictable, as we all know, and who knows what would happen if maybe a cell or the rain kind of banded a little bit out to the east. So here we go. The first restart after the lightning delay. Suarez leading the way with Bell and Hamlin in second and third. Reddick also looming in the back. Kyle Larson there as well. I think actually Kyle Larson was able to move up to the second row with the choose cone. So he was starting behind Suarez. And first restart, Larson gives Suarez a little bit of a help. And Daniel Suarez is able to surge out to that lead, able to hang on over Bell and Hamlin, even though he's at a severe tire disadvantage, and therefore you would think would be at a severe grip disadvantage with the lights on now, the sun gone down, the temperature on the track has gone down, the grip level has gone up. You would think Suarez would be at a grip disadvantage compared to all the guys that took 4 tires. Suarez was able to hang on for a little while until we got our second caution for rain, which would be, or excuse me, our first caution for rain around lap 360. Reset the field. They get back going after a couple laps of pacing. Suarez leading the way again. However, Kyle Larson would not be starting behind Suarez. Larson had faded a little bit. Larson was not the best car on the short run. Meanwhile, guys like Bell, Hamlin, and Reddick were. So it was Toyotas against one Chevrolet at the front of the field. But despite having no help, Daniel Suarez was able to surge out to the lead and was able to manage the gap and do some incredible defensive driving against Bell and Denny Hamlin, able to hold them off for a good portion of this race. And then we get our second caution for rain only about 10 laps later. That would bring all the cars down pit road. Could be looking at a delay. Who knows? We don't know yet if the race is official. I mean, the race is official. They passed halfway, but is NASCAR going to decide to call it, or are they going to possibly wait out this delay, wait out this rain, maybe wait out 10, 20 minutes or whatever, dry the track, get back going and finish this race? That would not be the case, however. NASCAR would call the race after this delay. They would red flag it, call the race, and Daniel Suarez, who was leading at the time, would be declared the winner for his first win of the season, his first year in 2 years, Inspire Motorsports' third career victory. Daniel Suarez would win the last night's Coca-Cola 600. The gamble paid off for both him and Ryan Sparks. A true upset victory in the NASCAR industry. What a win for Daniel Suarez. On a weekend where heavy hearts were aplenty in the sport, including Daniel Suarez, who, if you also watched Prime Video's pre-race coverage, Suarez shared a very interesting story about how he got his start in the sport, coming over from Mexico. He got support from Kyle Busch, and it was a very moving story. And someone else pointed this out to me online when I was like scrolling on social media this morning. I saw a thing that really connected this victory that Daniel Suarez had to Kyle Busch. I mean, Daniel Suarez, not in contention, took a little bit of a gamble after that lightning delay and managed to take two tires to get to the front and somehow was able to hang on despite being at a severe tire disadvantage. And you have to wonder, maybe was there something like, else happening? Was it just a coincidence that, on a night, on the weekend that Kyle Busch passes away, Daniel Suarez driving for the same team that Kyle Busch drove for when he won his last race, driving the same number that Kyle Busch drove in his final win at Dover last weekend, and the team Spire Motorsports they both drove for is in Kyle Busch Motorsports' old shop, KBM. Is it just a coincidence or is it just meant to be? That was something that I saw this morning and I can't get it out of my head. I thought it was, it may have been fate that one of Kyle Busch's proteges, Daniel Suarez, a guy that Busch gave an opportunity and a path to NASCAR to, in Daniel Suarez. I thought that was something that was truly like a storybook kind of sentiment. Like there's so many like ways that you could form like, oh my goodness, this is a storybook finish. You could have given it to Christopher Bell with Bell being his former teammate, with Adam Stevens being Bush's former crew chief, former championship crew chief. You could have given it to Denny Hamlin, Bush's former teammate. You could have given it to Austin Dillon or Austin Hill, one of the two drivers for RCR, the team that Kyle Busch just drove for. And of course, you had to give it to the one guy that we didn't suspect, with Daniel Suarez driving for the team that Kyle Busch won for in the Truck Series last weekend in the same number. So that was a truly poetic moment and a poetic thing that crossed my path this morning. So I think that is something truly incredible to think about as we move forward into this next race weekend, heading into Nashville. And then just looking at this victory for Daniel Suarez as well, this proved a lot of people wrong, I think. For one, Daniel Suarez, speaking personally, I didn't see Daniel Suarez as a guy that Spire would be looking towards long term. I'm thinking they could be looking at a guy like Raja Caruth, maybe Corey Day, if Hendrick wants to get Corey Day in a cup car, but don't want to move one of their guys out over one of their four cars. They don't want to move one of those guys out in favor of Corey Day quite yet. Maybe like one of those guys, one of Hendrick's guys, comes in to fill that seat, and Daniel has to go once again find a different spot. But so far this year, Daniel Suarez has been looking pretty solid, I would say. He's looked better than he's looked at any point in his career. Like, this looked like some 2022 Daniel Suarez that was winning at Sonoma and competing for a playoff spot. This looked like that kind of Daniel Suarez that we were all excited for heading into 2023, into 2024, but we hadn't quite seen that in a little while. But Suarez has been in the top 15 consistently, maybe not every week, but a good portion of the season so far. He's been in that top 15 range, and he's been running pretty well along with his teammates like Carson Hocevar. Michael McDowell has been starting to pick it up a little bit as well. And in this race as well, like, to add on to all my other points, Suarez is like in the playoffs right now. Like coming into this race, I believe he was 14th in points. He was sitting pretty. He's got a good, comfortable margin to the cutoff line for the chase. So Suarez has been having a really solid season. So he's already been proving some doubters wrong. It was a question of, is it sustainable? Like, that's some of the questions I had. Was it sustainable for Daniel Suarez to continue doing this? But now with this win, I think this does prove that Suarez is truly capable to still drive a race car. Like, this has been his best season, I believe, so far in his Cup Series career with Spire. And even going into this week, like looking at some silly season rumors, the Spire owners were saying that, yeah, we want to keep Daniel long term, like at least for another couple years, because Suarez is most likely on a 1-year contract that expires after this season. When I heard that, I was thinking, like, really? You want to keep Daniel Suarez, a guy that maybe isn't necessarily a world ender, and he's just kind of a bridge guy? you're going to choose to keep him over going after a guy that can help build your program up alongside Carson Hocevar, like Corey Day, or maybe even Raja Caruth, maybe Sam Mayer, Sheldon Creed, maybe not Sheldon Creed, but a guy that hasn't gotten a cup opportunity yet, but has a little bit of a higher ceiling than Daniel Suarez. But with this win, I think that proves all these doubters wrong, including myself. So I apologize to Daniel Suarez and his entire family. Speaking of his family, Daniel's family came up from Mexico to watch this race, which is a very cool moment for Daniel because they don't get to see each other very much during the season. Daniel's wife was there, expecting their first child later on this year. So congratulations to the Suarez family, and what a cool moment for Suarez to win this race for not only himself, proving so many doubters wrong that he's had over the years, to do it in front of his family and his wife, and to do it for Kyle Busch as well, who may not be present in physically present with this race, but to do it for Kyle Busch, who was present in spirit in this weekend overall. So, really cool moment for Daniel Suarez, and as well for Ryan Sparks. I and many others, we've kind of questioned Ryan Sparks as a crew chief. Like, no doubt Ryan Sparks is a very experienced member of any NASCAR team, and that's why Spire Motorsports has held on to him for so long. That's why he was a crew chief for so long with the team. He was one of their first crew chiefs, I believe, on that 7 car. So, we've always respected Ryan Sparks as to be a very good NASCAR personnel, but we've always kind of questioned his role as a crew chief because it necessarily hasn't been the best tenure for Ryan Sparks as a crew chief. In the little bit of time they spent as a higher up with Spire, they looked pretty solid. Like Carson Hocevar was running pretty good. Michael McDowell was running pretty solid. Justin Haley, last year, in times looked okay, but he was definitely the worst out of the 3 Spire cars. But Spire with Ryan Sparks as the guy overseeing everything looked pretty good overall. And when I heard that he'd be moving back into the crew chief role and sticking there with Suarez this year, I was a little unsure about this pairing, but it looks like something has been found here with Suarez and Ryan Sparks on the pit box and as a driver. It looks really good. And Ryan Sparks and his counterpart of Travis Peterson for Michael McDowell's team, they made some gutsy calls with pit strategy, and it hasn't always worked, but this time it has. So I want to give kudos to Ryan Sparks. So this is a very big prove it race for him to say, hey, I can for sure crew chief at this level. So shout out to Ryan Sparks and kudos to him for making a gutsy but a well worth it call in the long run. Let's go ahead and move on now to talking about the top finishers from tonight's race. You obviously got Suarez taking the victory for Spire Motorsports. Spire Motorsports only third career win as a team. Suarez third career victory. Excuse me. It's coming over 2 years ago. Last win for Suarez was at Atlanta back in 2024. Christopher Bell had a very nice bounce back race for him, finishing in second place. His teammate of Hamlin in third, Reddick in fourth. Reddick started on pole after qualifying was rained out. So Bell desperately needed this race. And the thing about Christopher Bell this entire year, he's had speed this entire year. It's always been in that 20 team. They're good on pit road. They got a good crew chief with Adam Stevens. They got a good driver with Christopher Bell. And they've had speed. I look at Texas just as like a most recent example, and Bell looked like he was going to be a top contender in that race. Unfortunately, got caught up in a crash, and that's been the story of Bell's season so far. He started out very, very well early on in the year, but since then, just not been very good finishes, very inconsistent. And when he's had speed, he wrecks. It's pretty much that's when he has speed, he wrecks. When he does that speed, he stays clean, but he just isn't very competitive. So that's been my big bugaboo when it comes to talking about Christopher Bell, but this might be a momentum shifter for Bell. He was one of the best cars in this entire race. Got stage points. He won stage 3. He was up front in stage 2 and in stage 1 as well. Found his way to the front late in the going, but didn't quite get some stage points. But Bell grinded out a good finish, finishing in second place. I thought Bell was going to be a guy, especially as the sun went down. He might be a guy that wins this race and really turns his season around, but you can't argue with the second place with how kind of rough this season has been for Bell. So second place for Bell, really good start to him. Kyle Larson, nice finish, finishing in fifth place. Ty Gibbs, finishing in sixth. Ryan Blaney and Logano, 2 Penske cars in seventh and eighth. Logano desperately needed a good finish. Got a top 10. How about that for Logano? William Byron, after showing good pace last weekend at Dover, finally get to top 10. It's the same thing. Like, I want to relate Byron and Bell for a second here. William Byron, I think, just hasn't had playing out. Just hasn't had good speed this weekend or this entire season. Like, he's been fine. He's been able to finish races. It's just he hasn't been able to compete very well, and that's not been my thing with William Byron. Like, the thing is, like, he's been good one week, then he's bad the next week. He's good in that one week, bad the next. It's just inconsistency overall for William Byron, and that's what's really been my thing with him. But hopefully for him, like Bell, this weekend can be a bit of a turnaround for him, and he can maybe get back on track moving forward. He had to come all the way from the back, starting in 31st. Looks like he was climbing up pretty well, got into the top 15, fell one lap down, unfortunately, but was able to get back on the lead lap and got back up inside the top 10. So great run for William Byron. Zane Smith for Front Row Motorsports in 10th place. Top 10 for Zane. Good race for him. His teammate of Todd Gilliland was down in 20th, was the last car on the lead lap. So good race for Front Row Motorsports overall. Shane Van Gisbergen, how about SVG? Qualified up in third place. Didn't really necessarily qualify, but it was, set by the rule book. So regardless, Shane Van Gisbergen finished in 11th. He was up front pretty much all day. Didn't really fall out of the top 10 as much. So, really good day for Shane Van Gisbergen finishing 11th. How about Ricky Stenhouse Jr. getting a 12th place, even though he had a little bit of a tango there with Ross Chastain, who looked like Chastain might be having a really good night. He was up inside the top 10. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., very good weekend for him. Just signed a contract extension with Hayek Motorsports. This has been quietly a very good racetrack for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. over the last couple years. So shout out to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Eric Jones in 13th after having a top 5 finish last weekend in the All-Star race. Comes back to Charlotte, gets a 13th. Had to grind this one out as well, but Eric Jones was able to get it done. I believe he did get some stage points maybe as well. I'm maybe looking at it here. Yeah, he got some stage points in stage one. Decided to stay out, use a little bit of pit strategy. Finished fifth in stage one, so Eric Jones ends up with a really nice result day. Good points for him. Michael McDowell was very aggressive once again with the pit strategy. He started up front as well with the qualifying, get it rained out, but yeah, it didn't look like he had a lot of pace in this one. Him and Travis Peterson once again employed a little bit of pit strategy to get a top 5 finish, get some stage points, ends up getting 14th. So good day for McDowell, Brad Keselowski in 15th. And then some other names that I want to shout out here. Cole Custer in 16th. Good day for Haas Factory Team. Alex Bowman in 17th. Pretty solid day for Bowman. Good to see him running up inside the top 20. AJ Allmendinger in 18th. Corey Heim, after starting dead last in the field this week, or in this race, climbs all the way up to 19th. He was off the lead lap at one point, but managed to salvage the day. And then Todd Gilliland, of course. Unfortunately, got some names outside the top 20, like Bubba Wallace, finished in 22nd. He, I believe, got into the wall, had some damage, couldn't quite recover from that. Same from Carson Hocevar. He had a little bit of damage as well from this one, finished the lap down as well. And then also Austin Hill, filling in for Kyle Busch as well. He finished in 27th. But Austin Hill, he ran a good race today, ran all the laps. So shout out to Austin Hill. Chris Buescher out in 30th. Josh Berry was looking like he was having a good night. Unfortunately, got caught up in that Buescher Priest Briscoe crash. Austin Dillon was looking up like he was gonna have a great night as well. Started up inside the top 10. Was running in the top 15 all night. Got up to the top 10 very, very late in this race. Got up into the outside wall, finished in 32nd. So unfortunate for Austin Dillon. And then Ryan Preece also got up in that crash. And we have Chase Briscoe, Ross Chastain in 35th. He haven't looked like he was gonna have a good day. Ends up in 35th as well. And then Chase Elliott, Cindric, and Zilich would round out your rest of the order here. And Timmy Hill as well. He was in the field this weekend for Carl Long's team. He actually had a big fire under the hood of that car, I believe possibly from some rubber buildup on that number 66 Ford. So glad to see Timmy was okay and hop out unharmed, but a very scary situation for Timmy Hill on pit road. But there you go. That's a look at your top finishers from this race as well. Forgot to mention, Catherine Legg finished in 31st, driving for BJ McLeod after finishing in 33rd in the Indy 500 earlier on Sunday. Comes out to Charlotte, runs all the laps pretty much, finishes in 31st. So, once again, shout out to Catherine Legg. Very difficult task of completing the double, and she gave it her best shot, and by no means of her own failed, but I think that she did very, very well. I think that if she didn't get involved in that crash early on in Indy, I think she would have probably run all 500 miles because there weren't many crashes over at Indy. And then at the Coca-Cola 600, I mean, a wheel coming off of that number 78 car isn't her fault. So I'm not gonna I'm gonna say that Catherine Legg gave it her best shot. So shout out to Catherine Legg. Really good performance, really good effort. Maybe we'll see more drivers continue to do this. Maybe Catherine Legg will come back out again next year and attempt this once again. All right. With that all done and out of the way, it is time to move on to the final segment of today's show. It is the race review rating. Let's try to wrap this whole race up into one rating. It's going to be very difficult. Long race, almost 400 laps, almost 600 miles. Got pretty dang close to it. We were like 37 laps away from it. We got very, very close. So overall, what do I think of this race, man? If I'm talking about the racing specifically, stage one wasn't all that great. I mean, it was still a little early in the race. The sun was still out. The track was still hot. Wasn't very much grip. But after the sun went down, things picked up a little bit. Grip went up. The track temperature went down. Racing got better overall. I thought we saw some great racing from Charlotte last night. I thought it was really, really good. Uh, Comers and goers throughout the night. Had some spectacular moments with some of those crashes. But overall, it was a pretty solid race overall. Nothing too terribly spectacular about like any of the crashes. Wasn't anything too crazy. Only had, I think, like 7 cars DNF from this one, so wasn't too terrible, I guess, in that regard. A lot of cars were still finishing, a lot of cars still running. It was a very good, I would say it was a clean race. It could have been way, way more chaotic in my opinion, but still saw some good, hard, clean racing. Very, very solid overall. And of course, despite the weather, we got a good race in, got a lot more of the racing than I thought we would when I looked at the forecasts for last night. So that's a plus in my book. And just look comparison to all the other races that we had this weekend with Indy having possible weather. They managed to get all of the laps run there. The Truck Series race got postponed twice. The rally race was cut short. So the fact that we got the 600 to start on time and nearly run all 600 miles, I think is another plus. And then, of course, honoring our fallen heroes that have preserved the freedom that we get to enjoy and the freedom of this great country. We'll get to do that as well. I think that's what makes this weekend so great is that we get to honor all those men and women in the armed forces and the first responders. So that's a truly beautiful thing. And then also honoring Kyle Busch. Very sad thing, but you know, it felt right, honestly. Even though it didn't feel good to do it, I think how it turned out with Suarez picking up the victory, I thought it was great still. And just honoring him, the fallen heroes, it's all very good. So, with that in all in mind, let's give this race a 90% for my race review rating. That's an A minus. I'm not going to be, off the rip and say it's an A plus because even though I could do that, it's my show. But I will be fair and say that with everything that happened, the environment was great. I think they sold out for the 4th year in a row. Incredible event, great racing, and an incredible story to have with our winner, Daniel Suarez. 90% feels very, very good. Could be higher. I feel like it definitely could be higher, but it can't be any lower than an A minus in my opinion. So let me know down in the comments what you think. What should this rating be higher? Should it be lower? You're crazy if you think it should be lower. Let me know down in the comment section below. But that will do it for this episode of Talkin NASCAR. Hope you all enjoyed. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for more episodes coming up very, very soon. We got Nashville as the next race on the schedule. And until then, I will see you in the next episode that I do. Take care, everyone.